So once you've delved into the power of Power Query, you need to start exploring parameters in Power Query, which are pretty cool. So in my previous video, you'll remember I built this table of data. It is literally linked to a folder that has got all of these individual monthly files in. So the Power Query we've built so far links all of the data from all the files within a folder, and it merged them all into this one report, and we've also linked it to another file with the prices and calculated sales value. So that's what our Power Query has done with us so far. If we want to take this a step further, it may well be that this pulls in all of the data, but we might want to use this little pick list here. So this is a pick list one I've made earlier, by the way. So this is data validation in here. It gives me a list of all of the months. Just in case you want to know where that's come from, I've added a new sheet called months where I've got a list of all of the individual months. I've just listed a load of them. I've given them a named range called month. So that's from B3 down to B21. On the monthly data, I've then included data validation. So in data validation, and I've connected that cell can include a list, and it's linked to the name range of the month. So that is where we're getting all of those individual months that are included on that list. Okay, so I can choose any month that I want. But you'll notice what's happening right now, when I change that, the data doesn't change, it's not impacted because it's not connected yet. But what I can do is I can link that cell there so that on an ongoing basis, I can amend the month and year I want to view, and automatically the Power Query will filter down by that month. So to do this, we need to take the month and the selected month, and we need to convert this into a table in Excel. So just clicking on either one of those cells, we can just press Ctrl and T on the keyboard, and it gives us create a table, and it tells us the range is J1, J2, which it perfectly is, and it also has a tick in the box that the table has headers. So that's right. From there we can just click OK, and there it's converted those two cells into a table. We can tell it's a table because we get the extra toolbar called table design, so we can choose whatever sort of style we want. We could just stick it back to no design if we want, or we could have orange or whatever you wanted. I'll leave it with no design for the time being. So now that this is a table, we can now build a query, a Power Query, based on that table. So again, selecting any of the cells within the table, the two cells, we can go to the data ribbon, and in Get Data, in fact, that is a little bit squished, but there is an icon there, which is this one here. It says From Table and Range. Now, because we have this link to a table, we can build our query linked to this table within the existing file. So if I click Table or Range, because we've already selected the table itself, it already knew this was the table to use. Okay, so it's named our new query, Table 2. We can amend that name, and we could call it month. Let's call it current month, actually. Current _ month. Didn't need an underscore, we could have done whatever we wanted, but current month will do. We can see we have two steps. One is the source, and it says it's linked to the current workbook using the Table 2 name. And then the next step is it's changed the data type, and it's changed the data type very helpfully to date and time. I don't want time, so I'm just going to delete time out of there and click on the little tick. So I'm changing that format so it's just a date. Okay. If you select the actual date field itself, right click your mouse and do drill down. What it does is it drills down into the specific date. So what this now means is the current month query, the result of that query is that date that is in that cell, 1st of July 2022. Ooh, okay, so what does that mean? So if I now go to close and load, I'm going to do close and load 2, and I'm going to make it a connection only because I don't need to see that. The date's there, I don't need it anywhere else, so I'm going to change it to only create connection. Click OK. What you'll notice here in our list of queries, it says current month, our new query, and it's only a connection. Okay. So what we can now do is we can use the data in that connection, the data in that query to link to the monthly data. So if I open up the monthly data query, so if I double click that, it takes me to the Power Query editor. So I now want to apply a filter to the date column based on the date in the current month. Okay. Now if you think about what that's going to do, the current month, if I just click back on there, is the 1st of July. If I go back to the monthly data, and if I go to the date column, we can see that you've got all kinds of different dates within the month. So we probably, if we choose, let me just scroll down to July. So we don't actually have any dates there that are the 1st of July, they're the 9th, the 12th, the 15th. So the problem is that I can't really use that filter because it wouldn't match any of the dates. But what we can do is we can take that date field, we can add a column based on the date, and we can look at the month and get the date from the start of the month. Okay, so what this means is we've got our original column, because we use the add column field. So we've got the original date, and then at the end we've got our new column, which is the start of the month. So any date that was in July now has the 1st of July, or the 1st of every month within this column, which is pretty cool. So what we can now do is we can apply a filter to this column. So we could filter by, and I could just manually select the 1st of July and click OK. So I've now manually filtered by the 1st of July, which is great because that's what the date is. But going forward, we want it to filter by whatever's in that cell. Okay, so the filtered rows, that's a step there, and it's showing us this is the M code. Now what we can see in there is that all of this bit here, all of that is how it's filtered it by the 1st of July 2022. So what we can do is we can press delete on all that bit of code, and we can manually just type in the name of the query we want it to look at instead. So that is literally just going to say current, and it pops up and guesses for us the IntelliSense. So I can just select the current month as the query, and I can press enter. Okay, so you can see that's still filtered by the 1st of July, but it's using the parameter from this query. What we can now also do, because that start of month is only there for the purpose of filtering, is we can delete that column so it doesn't appear in our report. So if I go to the home ribbon, I can do remove column, which keeps the data still filtered by July, even though we've now removed that column, which is pretty cool. So I can now do close and load, and you'll see that this monthly data is now just showing me the 10 columns that relate to July. If I now change that to February 22, I'd need to, in the data ribbon, just click refresh, and you'll see it's now showing me February. I can say show me April and click refresh, and it pulls in just the April data, which is cool. So I've now been able to connect my Power Query to my data validation in that cell, which makes it super cool. So I hope you found that really interesting, and you can start implementing that in your own Power Query reports.